Here we go. Kyle Freeland. I'm just kidding, guys. It's not. No, we're not doing the Rockies. I'm so sorry. Okay. That was supposed to be a upside down smiley face. I don't know why it's a Korean symbol. Okay. Blake Snell. Blake Snell, wherever he signs, I think he'll be productive for your leagues. I am out on Blake Snell just for the fact that he towed the line really carefully. And when it came to getting fastballs for strikes, and then his changeup was far better than it ever was, and he didn't get enough strikes with a slider and a curveball. And he didn't give in, which is great. He had one of the lowest mistake rates, if not the lowest one. You'll see that in the next panel with Kyle Bland. But I think that it's too risky, and you're going to be kind of disappointed, as his four-seamer does not have good shape. It actually isn't made for the Blake Snell blueprint. It's kind of weird. Not the best four-seamer I ever saw. Jordan Montgomery, honestly, is being way overdrafted, and y'all got to remember that he was just really good for about 2 months. He's been steady. He's like a Toby. He's a guy that's not going to have a 25% strikeout rate. The death ball, Passan, I absolutely adore you. You also made it so that we believe too heavily in Jordan Montgomery now. And he's someone that he's fine on your fantasy teams wherever he goes, but he's not going to push the needle enough at a point where you want to be drafting him inside your top 30 starters, maybe not even your top 40. You're not going to drop him through the year, but he's going to be a Toby at best, a Holly. Yuri Perez is really fun, and I love him. And the big question is he going to throw fastballs upstairs? He needs to get more strikes on his curveball. His slider is absolutely filthy. Both of those pitches have a 20% plus strikeout rate. It's just a question of that 10 to 11% swing strike rate on the four-seamer being located down and away. And I wonder, hey, Marlins, are you the team that can actually get him to throw it upstairs? I don't know if you are. So I'm a little cautious about that. Jesus Luzardo, I'm out on. I know that sounds really crazy. He just threw the most innings he's ever thrown. And also, his four-seamer does not have a good shape whatsoever. And even by locating it well, it still got hit far harder than I would like it to. He does not execute his slider consistent enough either. He has these great stretches, but the reasons why he is so volatile is because those pitches are easier to hit than I'd like them to. And I feel like if I have him around 23, it's going to be more tumultuous than I want him to be, plus the health risk. You have Braxton Garrett, who I didn't give enough love in the preseason in October, and he's solid. I don't think he's going to have the big swings in strikeout rate that you want. He needed his cutter and his sinker to be really perfect for him to be as good as he was. I don't really see it happening again. So he's a Toby, and honestly, don't draft him anything more. Edward Cabrera is really exciting because I think that his fastball should be better. He's actually really good against, I believe, lefties and righties. We're struggling. Changeup and breaking ball are really good as well. And it's just a matter of I think his mechanics are good enough. He just has to slow it down a little bit. And once he fixes that and actually is able to get more pitches over the plate, he's going to be really good. He is so hard to hit, and that's incredible. You have Mitch Keller. I think Mitch Keller would be amazing. He's the perfect Joe Musgrove and Garrett Cole situation of the second he leaves the Pirates, he'll be good. He goes to the Yankees and he'll be amazing. It's like the most obvious Yankee deal, I think, that might happen at the deadline. But Mitch Keller, I don't really want to jump in on it because the fastball shape is not very good, but the slider is so filthy. The cutter is so filthy. And I think that he's good enough. I don't think he's really a seven earned run consistent guy. I think he's solid, but he's not someone that I have inside my top 30. I don't think he's inside my top 40. He's still risky, and that's really annoying, especially playing for the Pirates. You have Zach Gallen, throws low four-seamers and gets called strikes with that, and he tried to go upstairs a lot last year, and he said, you know what, maybe that's not my thing, so he went back downstairs. He struggled with his curveball, which is really interesting. He doesn't really do that last year, and I expect that to be fine. Cutter is always the inconsistent one, but he's solid. I don't think he's an SP1, but he's like a guy 25% plus K rate with a 3.5 ERA, 110 whip, and a good amount of wins, and that defense is really good. And that's actually really sturdy and great. So 10 or so, that he's great. Merrill Kelly benefited from the new changeup grip 2 years ago, and that elevated his changeup to a higher swing strike rate. I don't think his four-seamer actually is going to maintain the same swing strike rates he just had. We asked him about it. Renee Decker did, actually, I should say. And he was like, yeah, I don't really know why. So oh, you don't know why? Never mind. Okay, I won't think of it as being a very serious thing then. We're going to move on. And the defense is very good for Arizona. That's the best thing he has going from there. He's going to get wins as well with it. But I think Merrill Kelly is just fine. And I keep moving him back and forth, but I don't really think it's a bet to make. Brandon Pfaadt on the same side. His fastball is interesting because it doesn't have good IVB, but he has a good VAA and above average extension as well. And I think that really aided him. And I didn't think that it would be as when I first saw him, I was really disappointed about it. He's not getting it upstairs though. and he needs to actually elevate this pitch. He's too far middle away against right-handers, and it drives me up the wall. Sweeper is obscenely good, and when the changeup works, it's good too. So there is actually growth to be had here that could happen with Fott. You have Eduardo Rodriguez going to the Arizona Diamondbacks as well. I don't really want to go for this. I don't think the four-seamer is that great. I don't think anything really is that great and that dependable. Defense will help him, though, in Arizona, and that means that he is someone that you can get in 15-teamers pretty safely. In 12-teamers, it's fine. It's a back-end thing, but not someone that I want to have as my top 4 starters. He's more like our 6, 7, something like that. Tyler Glasnow. He's now a Dodger, and that's pretty cool. I have him here with the Rays, which is kind of funny. But anyway, Tyler Glasnow, I don't want to go after him. He's only thrown about, 500 innings in his career, 520 in his entire career. And the idea that he's all of a sudden going to just not be hurt with the Dodgers, even though the whole back thing saying, oh, this was a perennial problem. You have a 6-man rotation going 2 with the Dodgers. It's just too volatile. I'm so sorry, but I'm just not doing this. I'm going by team randomly, guys. This is from my my prospects, not my prospect stuff, my rotation articles. Zach Eflin is also there. And Eflin is very much of a complete pitcher. And I love the fact that he uses all of his pitches the right way. 4-seamers go upstairs when they should, which is super, super cool. He just uses it with 2 strikes, and that's great. The new cutter was amazing. The curveball is great. The only questions I really have is he played at his peak last year, and he's probably going to come down a bit. Not to mention there is some injury history with Zach Eflin, but I have him inside my top 25 easily. I think he's just going to be another consistent arm for you that you're not going to drop. Aaron Savali, we talked to him. You should definitely check out that video on YouTube. We talked to him for like an hour and a half, and we went over entire game, and I loved it. He gave some really great insight about how he focuses on his cutter and his curve. And I think he has the right approach for everything. 4-seamer, he is going for more upstairs now. He is saving that more. And then the cutter and curve are just really his bread and butter. And it's solid. It's going to be something that's probably going to be a higher whip than you like, a little bit more hits. And the health is a bigger question too, about 120, 130 innings that he's had. But I think you're going to be fine with Savali as a Toby to Holly kind of pitcher with around 20, 25% strikeout rate, which is solid on a winning ball club. I think it's a good play. Taj Bradley, I don't want to touch. I just think his command is just too bad. It's that simple. He's a cherry bomb, and he's someone I'm just not going to go after and risk. If you can figure it out, that's great. It's a really good 4-seamer, but I just don't want to do it. I think it's going to destroy you mentally, and there's so many other exciting guys. Shane Baz, though, I absolutely love. I think many people are saying, he's coming back for Tommy John, and we don't really know how good he's going to be. I mean, come on. His 4-seamer and slider were both absolutely studly. It wasn't as good in 2022, his 4-seamer, but in 2023 when we briefly saw him. 2022 when we briefly saw him, but he's going to be great. I'm serious. I mean, it's going to be like 140 innings, and you're going to love all of it. You're not going to drop him the entire time you have it. Like, why get Tyler Glasnow? We can get Shane Baz kind of thing is a bit what I'm saying. I know that's kind of ridiculous, but I don't know. I think Baz might. I'm going to say right now, Baz is going to have a better season than Tyler Glasnow. Here we go. Why is it only 50 innings? I don't get it. Yance, why is it 50 innings? It's not going to be 50 innings. It's normal. It's coming back from Tommy John. Okay, Tarek Skubal, I'm out on more so than everyone else because I think everyone's overrating the 4-seamer. It's not in a good shape. And I think he overperformed with it last year. It was the most ridiculous results, and I don't think he located as well as I thought he did. I don't think the shape of it is as good. I think it's reliant on 96 mile per hour velocity and from the left side. And honestly, that should come down because he had the adrenaline throwing 680 innings after Tommy John. That's probably going to decrease, and that's not a fun thing to have on your team. It's a really good changeup. Cutter, slider it's a slider that's a cutter. Not that great. I'm out on Tarek Skubal. He's like right around like 25 or something for me. Kenta Maeda, I'm very intrigued by because he's just not someone who you have to spend a lot on, and he's generally been productive since he came back from the injury list last year. He was like sub-3 ERA after June when he came back. So I'm a huge fan of this. Take a chance on it. It's a good defense still in Detroit, and the offense should be better. Go chase Kenta Maeda inside your top 70 pitchers or so. Like, it's a fun thing. If he's not doing well early, doesn't have the splitter and the slider, then like move on. It's that easy. Shane Bieber is actually really interesting. I was originally out on him because of the 20% strikeout rate. I didn't think it would get better. However, Shane Bieber has a really high IVB 4-seamer that makes it so that if he goes low downstairs with it, doesn't have really good VA or anything like that. But if he goes low, he can get those called strikes and then use his cutter, his curve, and his slider underneath it. And he started elevating it to be middle more often last year, and I feel like he can get back to that. So I'm actually kind of in on Shane Bieber, even at the lower velocity, because he still gets IVB. Tanner Bybee, though, I've been very vocal about being out on because I just think his command just is not that good. His four-seamer is bad, and he throws like 50% of the time. He says, stay birdie, that's great. But even when he got it 60% high lock, which is above average and good, it still had a 10% swing strike rate because of this. So slider is good, gets a lot of whiffs. Changeup gets a lot of whiffs. He doesn't command them well. They got a lot of whiffs in the zone last year, and maybe I'm underrating that. I see that as more fluky, and just overall command is not quite there and polished. So I'm kind of out on Bybee. I don't know about Gavin Williams. He has elite extension across the board, and that's what makes everything so good with, especially with that elite velocity, right? 96, 97 on that four-seamer. The shape of it, though, as far as IVB, not very good. It's fine. It's like 15 inches, not like 17 or something. And his VAA is fine, again, like at 1 inside of our adjusted VAA. So you want to see like 1.2 to 1.5, and seeing 1 is good. It's just, I wanted to see something more. Meanwhile, the curve 50% strike rate actually underneath that last year. He's got to fine tune that. He's got to fine tune the slider as well. So I'm a little shaky on it. Only about a 13% or 12 to 30% swing strike rate in the four seamer. Hopefully that gets better with more pitches out of the zone and up. But I'm a little tepid on Gavin Williams at the moment. Tristan McKenzie is going way later, and honestly, why not go for him? One of the highest IVBs of anyone in the majors. His curveball is one of the filthiest pitches ever. Ignore yet last year's whateverness. And he's going to be healthy for spring training and going, and like, there's your fun. Grab him like after you get your SP4 or 5 and like have a fun time with that. I'm a fan of Tristan McKenzie. Hunter Green. I don't want to touch Hunter Green. Why? Because he has a four-seamer and a slider, and his four-seamer he has terrible extension, which makes his four-seamer a lot worse. Does not have his elite shape as you would think. So it's pretty much like mostly generated by the velocity. And then you realize that, oh, right, when he throws it lower and it's slower extension, it gets hit like really hard, like super high ICR rates. His slider can be very good. When he throws over 50% sliders, that's cool. But you're just here for the strikeouts, and it's in Great American Small Park. And the ERA is going to be bad. And I don't even know how great the whip is going to be. And I just think it's going to destroy you as a manager. So I don't want to do that. Nick Lodolo is fun. I like his, I think his four-seamer is all right. And like, and his curveball is massively good when it comes to getting whiffs. Changeup development is what I'm going to be looking for. Obviously, he's super hurt last year, and we got to see how healthy he is. Ignore all the numbers really from last year as far as results go. I'm curious about it. I still am not really interested because I feel like we're not going to get into that place of feeling confident, and there's a lot of volatility, and I just don't want to chase volatile guys. Andrew Abbott is kind of the same boat, but he's going much later. And honestly, if Abbott's able to actually go upstairs with a four-seamer, which he was able to do early on last year, and then it tapered off, and we saw how bad he was after. The problem is I don't really know what his best secondary pitch is. Is his sliders? Is his curveball? Is his changeup? Like, he hasn't really figured it out yet. But Andrew Abbott will help fantasy teams this year likely. And the fact that he's like going, I think, far later than the others, I would just rather take Andrew Abbott. Graham Ashcraft, oh man, if only he can like get his cutter upstairs, or no, I'm sorry, not upstairs, down in glove side. Like, he just can't command this thing, and he just leaves it up all the time, and it gets crushed. And it's like, I don't believe that he's ever going to have cutter command. If he has cutter command, then we're cool, but he doesn't, and he won't, and I don't want to be sad. Frankie Montes and Nick Martinez are also here. I would take a chance on Frankie Montes, see just what happens, and go from there. While I think he actually has like good pitch shape on his four-seamer back in the day. Nick Martinez is amazing with his changeup. I hope he goes like 40% plus changeup and then leans on that, because I just don't really think there's enough after that. Maybe the curveball as well. It's going to be kind of tough inside of Cincinnati, though, so I'm probably out on Martinez. And I don't even know what's like a six-man rotation, all that kind of stuff. There are other guys that I haven't really mentioned, but we're going to move on. I have like all this list of like other guys on these teams, and I'm just moving on. We've got like Spencer Strider, who's, Spencer Strider. Okay, he should be SB1. I'm not really going to say anything else. I hope he has a third pitch, because he actually gets hit harder than you think. But it's still, he just misses so many bats that it's okay. Right, that's it. And actually, I will say the ERA should be higher than you think with Spencer Strider, because he does get hit hard when he gets hit. However, Max Fried is going to have a low ERA. Why? Because he has amazing ICR rates. His command is incredible. He makes his four-seamer like a cutter inside, goes sinkers that destroy lefties. His slider and curveball and changeup. His changeup opened up and became his incredible pitch. The only concern about Max Fried is how many innings, because of the concern we had his forearm and then those blisters at the end. Look, if that's the only concern, the only thing is health. Like, Max Fried is a stud. It's just about how many innings. And I love this. Like, all your wins, all your ratios, solid strikeout rate. I love Max Fried, and he continues to fall further in drafts. So I'm just going to grab him. I feel that, by the way, my strategy of like 4 starting pitchers that you trust, I think I'm finding myself in drafts at 5 to 6 of those. So I would be inclined to go after a Max Fried at the price he's going than say Tyler Glasnow, because Glasnow is going far earlier. Charlie Morton is here too. He's getting kind of old, and I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified. It's just a good curveball, and that curveball wasn't even that good last year, and everything else is just falling apart. I don't want to touch Charlie Morton at all. No, I'm not doing it. Chris Sale, I'm intrigued. Eric Smolsky gave me a really good point about Chris Sale moving from Boston to Atlanta. He might be more inclined to really focus and actually get everything in order for a winning ball club like this. So that's cool. He still needs to figure out what his fastball velocity is, and injuries are still there. So I don't know how much we're going to get out of it. I'm not totally sold that it's going to be incredible when we see it. Changeup still needs to get back to what it used to be as well. But Chris Sale should be beneficial for your team. Pitching in Atlanta is a good thing. And so I'm all for grabbing Chris Sale on your teams. I don't know where, though. It's going to be like 40th or so, something like that. Reed Detmers, I wish I could love you, but I just can't. The fastball shape is, now that I know about this stuff, is not good, even though you increased your velocity last year. The slider, it can be great. Angels lost both of theirs, the two guys that were actually good, including the one that fixed Reed Detmers before. There's just not enough here. I added a changeup, and that's cool, but like there's still not. I need more. I'm so sorry, Reed. Griffin Canning and Chase Stillseth are also here. Canning is an interesting one because it gets a lot of swing strikes across the board with his two breaking balls, and his four-seamer can work upstairs, and it needs to be very precise though, and he needs to be about 30% fastballs. It can work. I just think it's more volatile than I want it to be, that for me to really go after. And Chase Stillseth sometimes has a splitter, sometimes has a slider. It doesn't always work together, and unfortunately his season was limited by a terrifying comebacker. I'm glad that he's okay. I'm not going to be chasing him because I just feel the fastballs are just not very good. Grayson Rodriguez, speaking of bad fastballs, what bad fastball? Grayson Rodriguez, yeah, I'm sorry, but Grayson Rodriguez's four-seamer gets destroyed, and he's trying to get it upstairs, and it's not really working. So he's got to figure that out. It's not as good a fastball as I thought it would be, and honestly, the secondaries coming together, that is the curveball, the slider and the changeup, would hopefully make that ICR better and more of a surprise. But he even says, like, no, everything goes to my fastball, even this offseason quote. And this is even me talking about when he returned to the majors. So I just kind of pushed away all the other stuff. Our PLV apps allow us to do this. So I'm not in on Grayson Rodriguez anymore. I have him dropping my rankings. Kyle Bradish, though, I'm actually in on. So I actually believe that Kyle Bradish can be incredible if he throws his four-seamer inside of lefties and that's it, and then uses sinkers inside of righties. And his slider is one of the best pitches in the game. His curveball is actually incredible as well. So you're having two amazing secondaries like this. A curveball that was only thrown 18% of the time and should go up in usage. The slider is just so good. It's just about figuring out how to throw those fastballs correctly. And I think he figured it out more so with that sinker. And I imagine that the four-seamer adaptation to be inside of lefties can be a thing that he really does. And all of a sudden, you're in a great situation, a great park, going to get a ton of innings. Like, I'm a big fan of Kyle Bradish. I think there's a lot of reasons to be in on him this year. High floor and even more room to grow. John Means is fine. His fastball is not that good, and his changeup can be great. He just doesn't get low enough, and unfortunately, his breaking balls haven't developed a ton. So he's a Toby, and that's really it for a winning ball club. He's a good 15-teamer option, but 12-teamers, I'm not really going after John Means. Corbin Burns, hey, if Corbin Burns fixes his curveball and throws more strikes with it and then gets his cutter down a bit more, then everything's great. I mean, it's really that easy. He just needs to find strikes again with his secondaries. And I remember actually during the season, like, he just couldn't do that, and then he finally did. And they're like little adjustments that he needs to make. His stuff is actually still really good. And the fact that he had such a good season last year, I think, is a showcase of like that stuff being still so good. And there's just adjustments about getting more strikes that will make it better. So he's still a stud, and that's really cool. Freddie Peralta, I'm out on. And there's a couple of reasons why. One, obviously the injury history is absolutely terrifying. Two, the way he throws, I think he's out of rhythm constantly. He's very cross-body and everything like that. Three, I mean, it's an amazing extension, but the actual shape of the four-seamer is kind of weird. It's not this like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever pitch. So all this stuff kind of is weird to me. Now, on the other side of it, I should say, like, adding the changeup was, what? You have this now? That's great. I think you're going to go back and forth with Freddie Peralta still. I don't think you're going to see the 3-month experience that you saw again. It's rare to see that really just take off, especially with a guy like Peralta who's already shown volatility. So I'm not saying that I'm out. Like, I would love to have Freddie Peralta on my teams, but I feel like there are other safer guys. And honestly, I'd rather have Kyle Bradish. I just think it's a safer play. And you don't need to get the Hail Mary of Freddie Peralta to work out. Aaron Ashby is very interesting. It's a sinker that is his primary fastball. And oh my gosh, I am so far behind now on time. Okay. No, 25 minutes is my halfway point. Never mind. Aaron Ashby, sinker is a problem against righties because he just throws that over the plate. And actually, when he gets enough drop, it's okay. It didn't have that in 2022. And then we didn't see him all last year with a shoulder injury. Slider and changeup need to get more strikes. That's really the main thing there. And then hopefully he can get a four-seamer or a cutter instead to right-handers instead of that sinker. He destroys lefties, of course. So that's cool. And I'm excited to see kind of how he goes in camp. Luis Castillo's a stud, and y'all should be loving him more than you did. You didn't love him enough last year, and look what he did. And now all of a sudden he's not in the top 5 for people. I don't understand why. Four-seamer is the number 1 swing strike rate pitch in the majors. Yep, it's Luis Castillo's four-seamer, not anyone else's. And guess what? He has a stupid good slider now, and the changeup is still effective against lefties. And he also has a sinker that he jams to righties. He doesn't have the greatest command ever, and there's some volatility about where he locates inside the zone. But hot dang, he's going to give you 200 plus strikeouts again. He's going to give you double-digit wins easily. He's going to give you like a 3 ERA with like a 110 whip. And like, why are you not wanting this more? George Kirby is right there. He's so close. His four-seamer gets crushed middle away to right-handers, and it drives me up the wall. As a guy who can put the ball wherever he wants, why do you put it there? I don't know. Just go more middle and up and actually out of the zone more. He had the lowest first percentile called strike rate on fastballs, four-seamers, but 99th percentile swing strike rate on four-seamers, right? Kind of crazy because, of course, of how he's using it. So I also think the slider is getting better. He also adjusted that one. And I think George Kirby just gets better. Really high floor and even room to grow is exactly everything that you want when drafting an early pitcher. Logan Gilbert, I'm out on because his four-seamer is just bad now. It is not nearly what we want it to be. Sub 10% swing striker last year, just could not elevate that thing properly. It doesn't even have the greatest pitch shape on it. And his slider woke up, which is really cool. He threw it at times over 50% of the time, which is crazy because Logan Gilbert just didn't have anything but his fastball in 2022. It's just too much to fix still. And I don't believe in his command like I do with Kirby. Control is fine. He's getting it around the zone and stuff, but he's not pinpointing it and sequencing the way he needs to and extracting the most. Brian Wu, I absolutely love. I think he's actually a better command guy than Logan Gilbert. He's set up for 180 innings now. Anthony Descafani is going to be the long reliever in my book. So you have him as your SP4 on the Mariners. Flat fastball that destroys upstairs, had a higher swing strike rate than Bryce Miller. Sinkers go inside to righties. You have a cutter and a slider he's developing, and we saw that come along much better for him. I think that he's primed for a legit breakout season. It is such a good four-seamer that just misses so many bats. He even elevated enough last year, and he still got all those whiffs. Bryce Miller, obviously the four-seamer has many good qualities to it. The biggest concern I have is there's nothing else. And watching him pitch, he's a thrower, not a pitcher. And that terrifies me. Good thing that his four-seamer is as good as it is, but like there's one game I saw where his cutter was killing it. And that was it. I'm terrified about that. And the fact that he's not really commanding that four-seamer as well as I want. It's just so hyper-reliant on that pitch being there. And his bat against lefties. He doesn't have anything against lefties. So like the four-seamer does not perform well against them. I'm pretty scared about it. And we'll see. Cole Reagans, who's that guy? I don't know. He's amazing. Y'all should just, I know everyone's terrified about it. So 2 Tommy Johns, it's 1.5. He got one and just one. He didn't break it after that. They screwed up the surgery and he got a second one. That's totally different than him just being so injury prone that he has to get it a second time. Okay. And he has 5 pitches that he commands super well. Like this guy's an absolute stud. If you're worried about injury risk and everything like that, okay. But like, there's so many other guys you're favoring instead. I think he's going to have a better season than Blake Snell. Like, go get Cole Reagans on your teams. Okay, cool. Awesome. He's great. Michael Wacha is also there on the Royals now. Amazing changeup and pretty good command. And like, I think that's actually pretty safe. The Royals defense, I think, is better than I was giving it credit last year. It's a great home park. AL Central more than the rest of the season. Rest of the MLB teams. Yeah, it should be fine. Honestly, don't underrate Michael Wacha. The only thing is injury risk in innings, but he should be okay. It's fine. He's not going where you need all the innings in a 12-teamer. Seth Lugo, I'm more out on. I think he got a little bit fortunate last year. Big curveball, four-seamer, and sinker, and I just feel like it barely worked last year. And the elite defense of the Padres helped him a ton with his ground balls. I'm not a big fan of this. I think this isn't going to work out so well with Seth Lugo, so I don't think he has the deep enough arsenal. The Nationals, I actually threw in DJ Hers here because it's just all the Nationals. Mackenzie Gore should be throwing high fastballs, but the Nationals don't let him do it, and it stinks. And it drives me up the wall. So you'll have certain games where he just does it anyway, and That's cool. But otherwise, like we need to see more development. That four seamer going upstairs. The slider on the curve can be really good. Changeup can be good too. It's about that four seamer, and he has all the reasons for it to be excelling upstairs, and they're not letting him do it, and it just drives me up the wall. So I don't want to trust it. DJ Hers is going to come up and probably be the SP2 for the Nationals this year. I don't really think he's that great, but he's an interesting lefty. Pay attention to him. That's all. And there's nothing else here. No, I'm so sorry, Josiah Gray. Do not care. Nathan Eovaldi exists with the Rangers. I think he overperformed last year. I think the injury woes are not gone whatsoever. And I also think that his super reliance on the splitter in the playoffs is great, but it also won't be something that sticks around for the regular season just because I think he's going to be a little bit more careful about everything. So I'm kind of out on Nathan Eovaldi. I think it works when he does go splitter heavy, but it just, I feel like you're not going to get what you want out of Eovaldi this year. John Gray, new slider last year and looked really good from the pen. And honestly, I don't like his four seamer at all. So I think it's too risky. He's really just breaks the Waskiri-Noah rule, and I just don't want to trust it. There's also like Scherzer and DeGrom and Malley, and you can IL stash them if you want, but like you're gonna see them like in August, and like that's just too long. I don't do IL stashes. You should be better than that and not do that. All right, I'm gonna take a coffee break. We're almost there. Woo! Oh man, how you guys doing? All right, how you guys doing? Thanks for being here. Please donate. All right, if you're here, please consider donating to the cause. It's to help raise money for ALS. Where are we right now? We're already at 3150. This is absolutely bonkers. Absolutely crazy. We're already 31% of the way there. We have 5 days this year. You can also join the chat if you're watching on Pitcher List right now. You can join the live chat that I see. It's not on screen, but I see all of it at playback.tv/pitcherlist. It's also where you have to be to be able to be eligible for prizes. We have 50 prizes. Go check those out. Okay. Thanks for being here, guys. Y'all are the best. Sonny Gray. Oh, yeah, Sonny Gray. I actually really dig what he does. His four-seamer is cut action. He goes inside against lefties really effectively. Sliders underneath, big curveball as well. He's pretty dope. And I think he's just going to be solid through the year for the Cardinals. The only question is health, really. And good defense, I think, still with Arenado and Goldschmidt. So I'm cool with this. I think Sonny Gray is getting overlooked. Lance Lynn, do not touch. Four-seamer is getting worse and worse and worse, and that's his main thing, and everything else is bad. Like, just don't touch Lance Lynn. I'm so sorry. I don't think the Cardinals are going to fix him. He's going to have some fun runs and everything like that. Just don't put yourself through it. And everyone else on the Cardinals, sorry. Yeah, there's nothing else to really report that's that interesting. We have Kevin Gausman. I don't like Kevin Gausman as much as everyone else because the 118 whip last year is real. Like 124 the year before that, BABIP is real because his four-seamer gets crushed all the time. And super reliant on that splitter just doing all the work. And that's going to be fine. And he's going to get strikeouts. But also, I don't know. It's not like he's going to help you in whip. He's going to hurt you. So why would you possibly take a guy who's going to hurt you in a stat in your top five? That makes no sense to me. You have Jose Barrios, who is fine. He's a Toby. He's a great undulator. He fixed himself with his four-seamer, which is very bad, and where he went to sinkers, which is much better. The biggest question is how does he deal with lefties? And the changeup can be very good, and he upped its usage, and it was a little bit too high last year, and that can be normalized. But yeah, he's going to be like your 3.7, 117 whip, and about a strikeout inning again. One of the rare guys who just doesn't get injured too. Chris Bassett's also like the same thing. I prefer Bassett a little bit over Barrios just because I feel that he's just been more consistent when it comes to his ratios. And keep in mind, 3.6 ERA last year. Yeah, that was after the 9 earned runs that he allowed on opening day, or pretty much his first start of the year. So much better ERA than that. Sinker is crazy good at getting called strikes because he throws everything else. Sure, there's a possible clip that's coming, but I feel like you're still safe with Chris Bassett. Yusei Kikuchi is super interesting. Why? He has an amazing four-seamer. Like, it is made to destroy batters upstairs, and he throws sub 50% high locations. Now, it used to be under 40%, and at least it brought it to 47% last year, but he's got to go higher. And adding the slider and curveball, really the curveball instead of that cutter, was such a big deal for him last year. He got a ton of strikes. It went from like a 53% strike around the changeup, by the way, to a 65% on the curve. So all of a sudden the walks came down to 7%. I love Kikuchi for this, and I want to take a chance on him because of that fastball as well. And I think he gets better with it. Alek Manoah exists, guys, and I can kind of see it working. It's all mental. Like, he actually had the skills of getting swing strikes on his four-seamer. He got really unfortunate with a lot of pitches. He made mistakes and they got crushed. And I think that put him into a spiral and then mentally took him out as well. Pitch clock stuff, you could say whatever you want. The Jays are going to take another chance with this because he's their SB5 and there's no one else. And that actually brings me to prospects break. Okay. Tiedemann is very interesting, and you should be looking at him for spring training. Skeens, I think, is going to be a long time. Job is so good, it's going to be a while for the Tigers. You have Waldrip with Atlanta, who might be up sooner rather than later. Very interesting. David Festa, he's the number 6 right now, and he might get the opportunity. Smith Shawver, I think, is going to be pushed back behind at Waldrip, so I don't really want to do that. He's still too young. They need to figure some of the things out there. Chase McDermott, and also Cade Povich with the Orioles. I like McDermott more, and they don't really have any depth there whatsoever with Tyler Wells. I don't really want to touch. I think they squeezed too much out of it. And then Dean Kramer, than nothing else really. And Cole Irvin, Bruce Zimmerman. So look at those guys too. Cade Horton, also really ready to go for the Cubs after the Assad and Wisniewski and Smiley stuff. Yeah, whatever. Horton's going to show up, and you want to add Horton when he arrives. Mizorowski is amazing, but what does he do? He's more like a bullpen guy, and he's super fat. He's got 3 pitches, but like it feels as if you're going to use him as a reliever. I really hope he's a starter. He just doesn't throw enough strikes. Drew Thorpe, I'm out on. I think he's a change of focus guy, and that's just not that interesting to me. The Padres are going to need him because they have no 4 or 5. They'll probably add one more guy like Carrasco or something like that. But Drew Thorpe, to me, just is a change of first guy from the right side, and that means that you're better against lefties than righties. And wait, hold on, you need to be better against righties than lefties. Will Warren and Hampton, I believe, is Thompson. Sam Thompson or Hampton, Chase Thompson or Hampton, I can't remember. With the Yankees, both those guys are really good. I like both of them. I think one of them will get the opportunity pretty soon, considering how injured that staff will be. So definitely be aware of both of them when they do arrive. Mick Abel is really your SB6 for the Phillies right now. There's no one else. And he's good. He's got a really good slider he focuses on a lot. It's just a question of how good the other stuff is. Robert Gasser is fascinating and might actually win a spot over Colin Ray, for example, in the Brewers right now. Out of camp, I would be picking him up for that. He has a very flat arm angle and also a very wide variety of pitches with a filthy slider. So that actually might play right away. Tekoa Roby is interesting. There's also Tink Hence with the Cardinals, but Tekoa Roby is a more polished pitcher. And I think that he had a bad AFL, but really good 4-seamers. They're really big breaking ball. I think they can play very quickly. And oh my gosh, if only the Mariners let Prelander Baroa actually start, because he is like Spencer Strider, a harder throwing Christian Javier, and it pains me so much because he would just be so dang good, but they're probably going to have him as a reliever because that's a full rotation. Blah, I hate everything. Okay. Oh, there's also Max Meyer. Max Meyer might actually get an opportunity pretty soon. But the thing is, he was super slider focused and not really good fastball, and I'm kind of out. I don't know. It's not that great of a thing, I think. So we'll see. Justin Steele, I'm out on. I think that he overperformed with cutter slider, where neither one is truly elite, and he commanded well enough with the 4-seamer, but like it's a cutter. It's a cutter and a slider that it's just too blech for me. Shota Imanaga is amazing, and if you don't draft Shota Imanaga, like you're ridiculous, especially as ADP right now. We need to see Shota Imanaga go upstairs with his 4-seamers. That's the only reason why he allowed as many home runs as he did, because he has literally elite IVB and VAA on that fastball, and it's like every pitcher's dream. Think a better Nestor Cortez. So with a better pitch mix and command, like, oh my gosh, Shota is insanely good, and I'm so jealous of the Cubs. Framber Valdez is a solid guy. I'm warmed up to him because the sinker still gets outs, even though it's a high ICR against right-handers. I wish he had that better cutter inside of right-handers, but whatever. He saves it for lefties. It's fine. Curveball's still good. The changeup improved last year. He's going to be good on a good Astros team again. He's solid. It's going to be like a 115 whip, and we're going to deal with that. Christian Javier can be better. He did figure out a little bit of his fastball and slider as the year went on, but really the slider for strikes is the big thing. Like, he just needed that. His 4-seamer is pretty much the same. He did get more spin for the playoffs, and maybe there's something involved with that. But honestly, his 4-seamer still actually performed really well last year. It was just that the slider wasn't there to complement it for strikes, and he had to do too much with it. So if that slider comes back and gets strikes, you actually are going to get old Christian Javier back. And that's actually a really good chance to take, considering you don't need him inside the top 40 or top even 50 at times. So I would take a gamble on that, see if it's there. If it's not, you move on. Justin Verlander is just going to get worse, and he's still getting really good marks on his 4-seamer, believe it or not, which is shocking to me how good he is still upstairs with really low ICRs. Slider just isn't as filthy as he used to be. Same with curveball, same with changeup, and it just is going to get worse. It's not going to get better first. It's going to get worse, and I just am terrified about it. Frankie Montas is someone I already mentioned, I think. I don't know why I have him here. Oh, right, that was previous year. I'm so sorry. We have Hunter Brown. We have Hunter Brown, who I think can be much better. He didn't really figure out what he was trying to do with his stuff last year. Then he started to actually do the Blake Snell blueprint, which is good because the four-seamer does have above average marks on IVB and VAA, and he has good enough velocity and good enough extension. Should work upstairs, especially when he has two breaking balls. Really, it's a cutter on that slider and then a curveball. He just did not quite harness those two pitches last year. If he does, Hunter Brown can make it work. He also got fatigued at the end of last year as well. I think Hunter Brown is, I'm very intrigued by him this year. And there is potential for this to really go off. Not to mention, of course, the team situation. 15 minutes. I don't know. I'm trying to do quick math. I got 30. Okay, fine. I got to catch up. Zach Wheeler, he's dope. It makes me feel dope. And you guys are worried about the injury stuff, and I don't really care. He should be your number 3 starter. He's best fat four-seamer in the game. I'm sorry. And even he could grow if he develops anything decent with his secondaries. He's absurd. Aaron Nola, honestly should be throwing high four-seamers, and it drives me nuts that he doesn't, because he actually has all the extension and the VAA that you would ever want on it. It's lower IVB, but it doesn't really matter. Just the same way with Zach Wheeler. Yeah, he embraced the sinker inside last year too, which was really cool. So curveball was a touch worse. I think it'll be better. Changeup is still kind of bad. Just throw the four-seamer upstairs and sinkers inside, and you got this. Christopher Sanchez is vastly underrated. His sinker is stupid hard to hit to both sides of the plate. And changeup is absolutely elite and better than anything Ranger Suarez ever had. Yes, it was an easy schedule. Still, the Phillies are going to start him every 5 games, and he's one of the most efficient pitchers in baseball. Get him. Seriously, you will not regret drafting Christopher Sanchez this year. Dylan Cease, I am out on because he's just not a command guy, and his four-seamer does not have the best shape in it. He's too much cut action, which then adds to the fact of he doesn't really know where this thing is going. And it also cuts into some of his whiffs. In my view, generally that's what happens. So I just don't want to do this. I think it's just the fastball is never going to be the quote unquote stuff plus pitch that you think it might be. It's not. And the slider also was just really bad to, I believe it was bad to lefties. And then the four seamer was bad to righties last year. And it's just, well, this stinks. The White Sox, that is the rest of that team, that crew. You have some interesting ones. I have them all written down here. But it's like Michael Kopech, Eric Fede, Michael Soroka, and Garrett Crochet. None of them I'm interested in, really. I mean, maybe Fede, I would take a chance on it just to see, because he didn't change how he's pitching. And honestly, I would go for that at the end of drafts as a just a flyer, just to see what it is. Kopech, I have no faith in whatsoever. Soroka has too much to fix. And you have like Jake Eater and Nick Nastrini also possibly coming up. Nastrini is probably the interesting one. Jake Eater has too much to fix. And Garrett Crochet just does not have enough on his fastball. It's a good slider, but no, that's not going to work out. Yu Darvish, I think, has a blueprint that would work if he executes it. I don't know if he's going to. I have to believe he does, because he has all the makings of it, and he's going to be better than last year. I think he's getting underdrafted right now. Joe Musgrove is just incredibly solid. Everyone's worried about his health, but the dude dropped like a weight on his toe. And I'm sure he had the shoulder stuff. He's good to go for opening day. I think that he's someone that is a veteran at this point and is going to figure out how to do well. The defense is very good in San Diego. It's also really good to pitch in the spring in San Diego, because it limits fly balls a ton for home runs. So go after Joe Musgrove. I think that team is still going to win games. And Michael King, I'm very much in on as well. I think the sinker is legit. He does a really good job also getting cold strikes away. He's essentially does what Brady Singer wants to do with his. And then he has a much better slider, and he has a good changeup, and knows how to pitch upstairs with his four-seamer. He knows his command is stupid good. Michael King is going to kill it. And he's going to be inside my top 40. I'm serious. It's not because I was a Yankee fan and sour or anything. This is post-trade and just kind of looking deeply into it. And I'm actually now really upset that we gave it Michael King, but that's okay. Kodai Senga. And I'm a baseball fan first. I'll root for Chris Sale against the Yankees. That kind of thing is what I used to say. Kodai Senga, amazing ghost fork. He only throws it for a strike about 53% of the time. So super reliant on the four-seamer and cutter. And the thing is, the four-seamer could be really good if he does elevate it properly, but he doesn't. And I don't think he has that great command. The cutter is so oddly good at ICR. That is, it doesn't allow hard contact a ton. He gets a ton of strikes on that. And I don't think that's going to last. So I'm a little bit more out on Senga than everyone else. However, there are reasons to think he's going to be good, because it's this full year now in the majors after the adaptation time from last season, getting used to the ball, all that kind of stuff. I see why a lot of guys are into him, but I honestly feel like it's going to be 115 and 120 whip. I think the ERA is going to be in the higher 3s, and you are going to get strikeouts, but I feel it's just a little too much of a risk. And also, what are the wins going to be? Mets are weird. Luis Severino should be better. He lost so much on his four-seamer, and that pitch was a 51% ICR as opposed to like the 30% it used to be, or something ridiculous. That's the big deal. And of course, he threw sliders and changeups that were more hittable as well. But the four-seamer is what lacked. And it's not because of velocity. It's because of drop in IVB and stuff. So it might have been sticky stuff that made his fastball better in the past. Something to consider there. I hope he gets his cutter working and good again. But it's really that four seamer getting IVB again, and I don't know if that it will. That's a tough one to call. Sean Manaea and Jose Quintana. I don't really want to touch either one of these. I don't really trust that Sean Manaea has enough of a skill set to work even at the velocity. It's still just not a good shape of a pitch. And Jose Quintana is so command focused, and he can eke it out, but all the stuff itself is just not that good. So it's just a Toby streaming play. Lucas Giolito, I'm out on because the four seamer is just not very good anymore, and it needs to be 94, 95, but the shape of it isn't very good, and the changeup is very good. The slider is very good, or it can be. It's not as consistent as you want it to be, but it really needs to essentially be at 95. Like, it's too bad of a pitch, and he allows all these home runs, especially with the play to it, and it needs to be this legitimate, like, elevated 95 mile per hour pitch, and if it's not that, then, like, he's going to get hit, and especially inside of Fenway, I'm not in. However, I like all the other Red Sox pitchers. Brian Bayham, sinker is amazing, a really good baseline for everything. Changeups are fantastic, and he improved slider that I think is going to be a big thing. Really good baseline for the year ahead, and also improving. It was a 3.71 before ERA before his last two starts. Nick Pivetta, I'm so in on. The Whirlybird sweeper is such a difference maker for him. And having that with the cutter as well. And then now his IVB four seamer, which is amazing, is actually getting upstairs and being tunneled well. Like, he's figured it out. He's finally gotten command across the board. He's doing the Blake Snell blueprint perfectly. I'm so in on Nick Pivetta. Cutter Crawford, I'm so in on him. The only adjustment he needs to make from last year is literally just get his four seamer higher up. It's like a little bit too low. It's getting hit too hard. It has all the makings of an elite four seamer. He has a great cutter. He has a actually much better cutter than it used to be. An elite slider as well. It's all there. He has ways to get out lefties, ways to get out righties, and the four seamer just moving up a little more is the last piece of the puzzle. I'm in. Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock. I think it's going to be Tanner Houck because Houck's sinker is just so good inside to righties. And the sweeper going away from righties is so good. And if you're good against righties, not so good against lefties, that's still going to make you better than the average pitcher half the time, right? So the question is, how is he going to get lefties out? I have no idea. I think he's trying to figure that one out too, and that makes me too out on Houck at the moment because the splitter is not good enough. Garrett Whitlock needs to figure things out. It's been 70 innings for 3 straight years, and it's just the sinker at times can be commanded well enough. I think he went through injuries last year. But the thing is, changeup and slider both are 20% plus swing strike rate pitches. So if you can figure out the sinker command, and please go inside a right-hander, stop staying away from them with it, please. It's so good. You know how to do front hip to lefties. That's great. Now do inside to righties, and then you'll be solved. But I don't think the Red Sox are going to give him the opportunity to get the rhythm, and that's really annoying because this would be a 5-man rotation with Houck, and I think Houck is just better situated at the moment. Pablo Lopez is an ace and should be considered inside your top 10, if not your top 5. His four-seamer is amazing. His command is amazing. His slider is amazing. His changeup is amazing. Like, just do it. He also throws sinkers inside. Like, this guy's amazing. Just get him. Joe Ryan, he needs to figure out something else in the secondary. His batters started really cheating out more so on the four-seamer and the changeup or splitter that he was using. You think it might be good because it gets strikes, but honestly, it's a low swing strike rate and it should have a much better one considering the difference of the four-seamer in that. So I'm very tepid on Joe Ryan. He needs to figure out a slider. And I love the fact that he goes upstairs, and I love the fact that it should work up there, but he needs something else. Until he has something else, he's going to be a big home run liability, and it's really annoying. Bailey Ober, I like more because he has the changeup and slider that is good enough right now, and he has that painted upstairs red fastball at the moment. I think he's solid. Like, I think it's, I mean, I like Joe Ryan more. He has a higher ceiling. I shouldn't say it like that, but Bailey Ober at his price, I like more. And it's been annoying to see the people actually starting to get in on him. And I thought I was going to be sneaky having him around like 40 or something like that. And now I'm seeing like everyone's putting him at 40 and it's 6. Okay. Chris Paddock and Louis Varland are at the end of this. And to pay attention to both of them, because this is your SP 4 and 5 right now. There is no one else. You might get like, again, a Carlos Carrasco, Zach Davies, that kind of thing. Yeah, I like both of these. Louis Varland, I think actually more so than Paddock. Paddock's four-seamer, I don't think is as good as we thought it was. And it's gotten a lot worse recently. Even with the added velocity, it's not a good enough shape. So I think Varland is the one that actually is more intriguing to me with an amazing slider and that fastball that can work upstairs. So I'm more in on Varland than I am on Paddock. The Oak A's, like Okays. You get it? The Okays. All right. It's like, who are these guys? I don't know. Joe Boyle? No. I don't want to do that because Joe Boyle doesn't know how to command a pitch. JP Sears is kind of interesting, but he still has to figure out his command, honestly. But four-seamers, when they're upstairs and sliders down, are so good in the changeup maybe too. But Luis Medina, I don't really want to go for. He had a slider working for a moment, and that's fine. Mason Miller, oh, it's so frustrating, but he's a closer now, so whatever. Robert Salinas might get a chance at some point. He's really interesting as a prospect. And I didn't also mention Connor Phillips with the Reds, who's not getting opportunity now, but he has better stuff plus on his four-seamer and slider than Hunter Green, really. And I get it because it is the best shape ever on the four-seamer, super hard. You just can't command anything. Logan Webb exists. I keep saying exists like this, like whatever, but Logan Webb is really solid. I don't think he's going to have as good of a season. Actually, Eno was telling me that Logan Webb said that he doesn't even consider himself like a stud because I mean, it's really good called strikes on the sinker. And because this changeup mirrors that pitch so well, he's able to get those called strikes with that sinker, which makes it great. The problem is against right-handers is a little tougher, and the slider is not nearly as good as it used to be. And he's still trying to figure that one out. So I think the BABIP is going to be higher, which means more higher hit per 9, which means that if he doesn't get the strikes that he used to, it's going to be like a 117 whip again. I don't think the ERA should really be underneath 3. And the strikeouts should be more like a strikeout in an inning, not like, 27%, which means that the 200 strikeouts is kind of too much of an ask. Hopefully he goes like 220 innings again, but we generally don't see that repetition year to year. Kyle Harrison and Jordan Hicks are both there. I think I put Jordan Hicks at 90. I didn't mean to do that. Kyle Harrison is four-seamer, is like a good VAA and everything like that, an extension, but like he can't command the dang thing. And curveball isn't consistent enough. And I'm just like, well, no, this is an absolute cherry bomb. Jordan Hicks, they're going to have to figure things out of just how does he get out? Like, how does he get his strikes? Like, is he going to throw enough slider strikes as a sinker, which is way more hittable than you want it to be? But really good ICRs. Like, it's not a whiff pitch is what I mean by hittable. So what is his big whiff pitch? Is it the slider? And then what else is there? There's stuff to fix with Jordan Hicks, and I hope that they figure it out, but I'm very curious about it. Garrett Cole's an ace, and he's going to be my SB1 or SB2. I think he's going to be SB2 underneath Strider just because of the strikeouts for Strider, but he's so consistent and good, and like, don't think about this. He needs to get a slider back, though. Swing striker was down to 15% or something from like 20+%, and that needs to change. Marcus Stroman is going to be fine in the Yankees situation. I think the Yankees have a solid enough defense, and yeah, it'll be fine. As a ground ball guy, the Yankee staying dimensions don't really affect him. He should get wins. Like, it's fine. Carlos Rodon is a risky play, and I think anyone drafting him inside the top 30, top 40 is putting too much risk because, yeah, there was a massively injured season, and his four-seamer shape is actually not as good as I thought it was. So he really has to get back to a moment of really getting that 96-mile-per-hour fastball consistently and upstairs, and then also telling it effectively with that slider, as he doesn't really have much else. It's possible he can get there, but I'm not quite so certain. We've got Nestor Cortez Jr., who honestly I might be even more in on because the four-seamer shape is so good. And yeah, he had some weird injuries last year, but it's not like the same stuff that it was with Rodon. But the four-seamer cutter slider combination is just so good. And I think Nestor Cortez is going to kill it when he is healthy, which he should be right now. You have Clark Schmidt, who's fine. Honestly, don't overlook him because it's the Yankees. They need an SB5 right now. And they're going to lean on Clark Schmidt for a full weight of volume because you're going to have some injury inside of this rotation. He doesn't know how to get out lefties yet, but against righties, he's got that curveball and the sweeper. Sweepers are worse against opposite-handed batters. That's why he doesn't have a good thing against lefties. It's sinker focus as well. So it's like, does he have a changeup? Is the cutter good enough? Is the curveball good enough? I don't quite know with Clark Schmidt. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is dope. I think he's going a little too high because it's going to be a 6-man rotation with the Dodgers. Like, they're trying to slow down everybody. And especially with the first year Japanese pitcher, yeah, you're not going to get 180 innings, 200 innings. You're going to get more like 150, especially being 24 and being signed for 10 years. So he's going to be dope when he pitches, and we're cool with this. Absolutely. But you're going to get limited a little bit more. If I'm drafting him like inside the top 15, I want more than 150 innings, honestly. And also there'll be some risk of getting adapted. So he's inside my top like 20, 25, but like 15, I think is just too high. Tyler Glasnow already talked about get out of here. So here's your bonus break. Oh boy. Bobby Miller, I absolutely adore. So he's going to get, I think he's going to be pushed a little bit more than Yamamoto, I think, on per inning basis. And I also think that his strikeouts can go up, considering that his four-seamer should be elevated. Like, he just throws it too low. The Dodgers love throwing low four-seamers and drives me absolutely up the wall. I don't understand why. Ryan Pepio, who I will talk about with Tyler Glasnow, who I actually really love with the Rays. He's going around 200 ADP for NFBC, and his four-seamer should play upstairs, but he just didn't throw it upstairs, and he has an elite changeup. And like, the Rays obviously know this. Solid enough slider too. So Ryan Pepio is actually a target of mine. Bobby Miller, I absolutely adore it. Two fastballs are amazing. Slider that is all kinds of filth. And I think he just gets better and commands everything better. James Paxton is there as a temp, and the four-seamer was not as good of a pitch shape as I thought it was. He just overpowered with the fastball velocity, and it declined. The curveball didn't. It's fine. It's a good situation in LA land. And honestly, at the end of your drafts, if Paxton is there and he's pitching for the Dodgers, like that should help your teams. Emmett Sheehan is here, and Emmett Sheehan has a really low arm angle, gets a lot of arm side movement because of that, but gets a decent amount of IVB. I mean, actually, I take that back. It's just a really good VAA, really good extension, and good enough velocity that makes it so that the fastball actually could do really well upstairs as a four seamer. He improved his slider as well and changeup. There's something really to like here. It's just about the amount of innings and how they use them. And then there's Walker Buehler, who I had a tweet last night about, where Walker Buehler spin rates went massively down. IVB went massively down. It's like 18 plus and it's down to 16 plus, and I'm a little worried about it. And he'll be delayed a bit. But I like Walker Buehler. He's going to be really helpful. It's just about when you see him and probably be around. Whew! Oh my gosh.